So just to do a very short summary on how we got here. 5 years ago, the Commission President, which is now also the President-elect, which is a strange word because she hasn't been elected, but she has been confirmed by the Parliament, just was banging on the twin transitions, which were greening and digital. That was all before COVID, 1 year before COVID, and then came COVID. And the energy crisis, I call it energy crisis because in fact it was two energy crises. Just when the COVID recovery started very fast, there were already problems of energy, already some geopolitical blackmailing from Russia, and then came the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and things got far worse. And right now, let's say that is not twin transitions, it's more three transition, greening, digital, and resilience. And right now, the key drivers are more in the European Union, but I would say a bit everywhere, geopolitical and global supply chain tensions. I think COVID-19 was just a great revelation that supply chains were fragile, and right now there is a lot of running after and trying to anticipate these deficiencies that can come up at any point because of any policy. And I list a little bit of the things that are going around, some that are political decisions. So there is the whole European Union policy of de-risking China, not decoupling from China, but we did quite a lot also to react or adapt, as you wish to call it, with the Inflation Reduction Act. There are ongoing issues everywhere, but a lot in Europe about electrification of transport and all the issues linked to raw materials. There are some geopolitical issues because China has had a policy of limiting some export, but there are also just issues of supply. You know, there is not enough for everybody. We've been dealing for a while on how to react to overcapacity from China with the economic slowdown. A lot has been put out for export. So in a way, all the efforts, for example, to have battery production in Europe is thwarted by the fact that there are a lot of cheap batteries coming in. So in a way, a lot of investments have been done, and then companies just have to close or lay out workers for electric vehicles or for batteries, etc. And that's something which already exists but is getting bigger, and I will talk about it at the end, export controls. Also, we had elections in the middle of all that, and we have now a new college and new political guidelines that really put, let's say, unknown, strong emphasis on industrial policy. And this is the first. We always had to talk about competitiveness, prosperity, etc., but it came last. This time it just comes first. First in size and first also in chronology of speeches, and this is something totally new. So last year I did a presentation that showed what we were working on, which was the Green Deal Industrial Plan, the long-term competitiveness, and the economic security, and all these things are going on. A number of these legislative modifications have been adopted, so we are waiting for implementation. So it's not like we are just waiting for the new boss. The new boss is the old boss, and everything takes time. So we adopted, for example, the Net Zero Industry Act, the Critical Raw Materials Act. If you don't know what they are, I think you can live with that. But they make really quite some changes, but they are not implemented yet. And competitiveness began to be a big word, in spite of being very difficult to pronounce for people like me. But in parallel of all this work, there was this explosion in the political discourse of the need of looking at the industrial side of things. This was spurred by a number of things, geopolitical situation, economic situation, but also, let's say, a big pushback from industrial actors. You may have heard about the Antwerp Declaration during the Belgian presidency, where the main industry associations gathered in a summit where the acting, let's say the rotating president, Mr. De Croo, of the European Council came, but also the President Ursula von der Leyen, and they did this declaration saying, all these transitions are very nice, but you have to look at what it implies for industry. So there was immediately a reaction, and I pass also on the farmers coming to Brussels and blocking the whole city and saying also the green transition, etc. So I will try to concentrate really on industry, let's say, restrictive view of industry because so much has been happening. But basically economic operators have been saying the situation is very complicated, we cannot manage with all these changes, you have to take us into consideration. This then compounded with a lot of concerns about competitiveness, whose, let's say, image was the difference in energy prices between here and the United States, and the difference in inflation also between, when I say here, I'm taking the UK in, isn't it nice? You see where my heart goes. Huh? Personal capacity between, let's say, Europe and the United States, but also among the member states. So it was quite clear the single market was not working as it should have. The reaction to the energy crisis was working, but not as fast as it should have. So what we had recently, and I will try to go through that, is, and I'm not putting everything there, someone just before asked me if I was to talk about the letter report on the future of single market. I thought about it. We cannot talk about everything, and the single market is the backdrop of all of that. I'm not talking about the strategic dialogue on agriculture and food, which is also quite important, but I'm really focusing on what President-elect Ursula von der Leyen said in her political guidelines about industrial policy, and the Draghi report on the future of EU competitiveness, and then what will be the role of this new position that was created, the new Executive Vice President for Prosperity and Industrial Strategy. So I put there a quote saying, reminding a bit what the industrialist said, there is no Europe without industry. Even though if you look at the percentages of manufacturing, ça se discute. There are some lows, like in the UK or in France, and some highs, like in some Eastern European countries or Germany, but you never go beyond 20 and something %. Still, during the crisis, all the crises, the three crises, it was quite clear that we really have an important role to play in competitiveness. And so she announced that in the next mandate we would have a new European prosperity plan, and you can read everything she wants to put it in, but it reminds me a lot about the tables of last year. All the themes we discussed came out there. So the ingredients are known. It's the recipe which really will make the difference in the European Union. So Mr. Draghi put out a report that was very much anticipated and kept under wraps, and is 400 pages long, so not many people have managed to read it all. But even the executive summary is 70 pages, but it's quite interesting because of who he is, and he already saved Europe once with the whatever it takes moment, but also because of certain taboos is breaking with the report. So he says that there is an urgency to act. He also says that a number of things have to be changed. Certain we keep banging on about the full implementation of the single market, the reform of EU governance, the need for less regulatory burden. We are very good at adding burden, not very good at taking it out. But some other things are really breaking taboos. One is the need for massive investment. It talks about 800 billion a year. So this totally dwarfs the budget we have. It's not saying it should be public money, but is huge. And it's a size which dwarfs even the Marshall Plan. Some people did the calculations, and it's far more than the Marshall Plan, so just to give an idea. He also calls publicly for a reform of competition policy and state aid policy, which is something which is, let's say, complicated. He also calls to differentiate between industries, which is something that is also complicated. And if you look at the four categories, I will not go into that. But if you look at the first, it just says there are some goods for which we just lost the war. Just let us buy them on the cheap, subsidized by other economic regions. So you could read batteries on the first category. And you know we've been investing a lot on batteries production. And when you see all the issues we have now with electric cars in the continent, and the closures that have been announced and the slowdowns that have been already done and the layouts, it makes us in Brussels think a lot. And there is a lot of thinking about that, that we will have to see how it goes into policy. Let's not forget that the Draghi report has been commissioned by the European Union, so it's not an independent high-level report as the latter one, but still it has always been said that Mr. Draghi was working in full independence and that his conclusions are not, so the report is not the official position of the Commission. A number of member states, first and most importantly Germany, have been already said, you know, this kind of money is nowhere to be found. And it is nowhere to be found. We are totally right. The only way to find it would be to raise it. And a number of member states always said that the next generation EU that was used for the green transition was once and only in the lifetime. By the way, this raising money with the interest rates that went up, interest rates are paid in the budget of the European Union. So we are stretched on our budget because of the raising up of money. And I tried, I don't know if you can read that, because I can't on my screen, but I tried to go through the mandate letter of this new position of Executive Vice President for Prosperity and Industrial Strategy. And I put some color coding on the things this person, my new boss, should be doing in the next 5 years. So the greens are the mixed things. The yellows are the rules initiatives. And then you have, like, the soft law is the, you know, no rules, no money is, let's say, the blue ones, only two, and the reds are the ones that have an effect on financing. Because we believe that this new industrial policy, it's not totally new, it's a continuity, but boost industrial strategy we should develop will need, as Mr. Draghi said, a lot of investment. I'm not sure it will be possible. Gordon, you are a star. I'm done. Last. So you can read the little caps when you get the slides. And so my last slide is about the trends that are emerging. First of all, and this is a continuation of economic security, competitiveness, security, and sustainability have to be combined in our industrial policy. There is quite a big focus on the use of trade policy instruments through what is called clean trade and investment partnership with like-minded countries. There is a lot of talk about securing key supply chains with a number of countries, also on having a partnership for raw materials. This basically means reshoring, nearshoring, friendshoring. There are a lot of studies now on costs of what that means. All the shorings are costly. They are sometimes also opportunity because they can bring back manufacturing and manufacturing employment in certain areas. There is quite now a boom of plans for having automobile production in Eastern Europe. So this trend of having less in Germany, Belgium, Spain will probably continue, but move to Eastern Europe. There is quite a boom on export controls. Export controls have a cost, obviously. They have also opportunity. I think, 2 weeks ago, the Congress in the United States voted on the Biosecure Act for biotechnologies, and a number of European companies are quite happy because that blocks out certain parts of the world, and because we are quite strong on these technologies, could provide a lot of opportunities. Control of investments is being developed, is one of the things that Mr. Séjourné is asked to do that. And new investments could be the effect on all of that. You will have seen I didn't talk about tariffs because these have been going on for a while. They get more attention, but we will see also what will happen. Thank you very much.